magsa-segue din ako doon sa West Philippine Sea, being a former defense chief. You agree with the approach that we are taking currently in dealing with this problem?
I think based on the statements of the two officials responsible, principally responsible for it, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs and Secretary of National Defense, our position is as straightforward as possible. And that UNCLOS is the law that governs our rights and territorial claims. And no amount of history can overturn UNCLOS. Now, the problem is enforcement. Enforcement is through the United Nations, unfortunately, which is the sole organization authorized under international to enforce it. So there has to be a lot of diplomacy and security engagements involved in creating some momentum in order for other nations to support us vis-a-vis China's claims. Now, we must also remember that diplomatic relations between countries are multidimensional, not of a single dimension. And so I would rather leave the question of the West Philippine Sea to expert diplomats and security officials rather than to make it a partisan political issue. On the other hand, our people should be educated as to what really belongs to the Philippines, whether territory or rights, so that they are adequately informed and do not have false hopes or aspirations as to what may not be ours under international law.
But you're referencing, as you said, the two implementers, as you said, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Department of National Defense. But in reality, you have one other person on top of them, and that's President Duterte. Let me rephrase Ami's question. Do you agree with how President Duterte has handled it, particularly with his words and his posturings and his body language? Many people have criticized it as deferential to China. Many people have criticized it as weak. What are your thoughts on how President Duterte, over the past 6 years, has handled this?
Well, to take his last speech, before his farewell speech before the UN General Assembly, he stated in no unclear terms that our rights, as determined under UNCLOS and confirmed partially by the arbitral award, is part of international law and cannot be, frittered away by passing administrations or the passage of time. How this is enforced is really a question also of time and political circumstances around the world in the future. So moving from that, I would say that we look forward to developing more gravitas in the international world in order for the world to give us an ear, in order for us to advocate our claims more vociferously and more efficiently as against China.
But sir, at the same time, the president's critics also point out that it does get a bit confusing for a lot of people exactly where the president stands on the South China Sea. In his official, very, very formal statements, he seems to stand by the arbitral ruling, but in his other speeches, he wants to put it aside. So minsan parang magkaiba yung speechwriters niya. Sometimes it sounds like Teddy Boy Locsin talking, and sometimes it seems like Duterte himself talking. And it does leave a question mark for a lot of people.
Well, sometimes maybe each president would have his or her own approach. And sometimes also it's probably sometimes venting a frustration of what cannot be achieved with what we have right now. However, looking forward, I hope that we develop sufficient expertise and gravitas in order to pursue what is ours amidst, the undeniable stronger force that faces us. hopefully other countries can see value in upholding international law through the Philippines in order for them to be also spared from the same kind of bullying that it has beset us.
What's the strategy for building that gravitas, for building an international community and network that will not only back us but also see that that by internationalizing this, that there is a global interest here?
Well, the strategy will make really, for me, is to make us a center of expertise in international law and international relations. That is building our human capital and expertise in the area so that our voice has credibility when we talk in the world. And that will take some time, but it needs investments from both the government and the private sector and our educational institutions. That is the strategy, to be a center for excellence, of excellence in international relations and international law.